Good evening and welcome to episode 11 of Carter Shed. This here is the original bandsaw stand that came with the bandsaw here, and this is its replacement. This is packed full of features. It's obviously a stand for the bandsaw. It's got a 3-inch belt sander here. It's got a scroll saw up the top. It's got a 1-inch belt and a 5-inch disc sander on the other side. They're all hooked up to a vacuum system through this port here. There's a blast gate for every tool. They're all powered off of this plug here. It's got a light and it's got 5 drawers in it. If you want to see the features in depth, you can skip along to the video at this time on the screen. But if you want to see how I built it, we'll get cracking straight into the build. I've had the bandsaw for a good while now and I'd be lost without it. However, I've never been happy with the stand. For me, the table was a little bit low for my height, but the biggest issue was that it wasn't a mobile base. My shed's not a bad size, however it's not large enough to have large tools and static stands. For me, there was also a lot of wasted space within the pressed steel legs that could be better utilised. So, where better to start than from the ground up. So far you've seen me cut the 4 bits of 2x4 that are going to make up the base to size. I then cut half laps with the miter saw with the depth gauge set to half the height of the 2x4. I'm now going to use some construction adhesive and glue to secure the base together. I've got the corner clamps in here just to hold everything square while it sets up, and then bring the casters in, get the holes punched out and then pre-drilled before screwing it through that joint and making a nice solid joint to finish off the base. With the base completed, I can now keep on moving up the stand and start with the sides. Just like the base, again we're using half lap joints. Each side of the frame is made up with 3 uprights, so I cut them in pairs for each opposite side to ensure they all match identically. I can then get them cleaned up again with a chisel before assembling each side. The horizontal stretcher finishes off the sides and I can get them glued and screwed together just as we did with the base. I designed the stand to get tools at a good working height for myself. This is why you see that step up on the sides. I think I can hear a montage on the way, so I'll leave you with that while I secure the sides to the base with pocket holes, finish off the frame and sheet it. time for this. Every tool's a hammer. I have a few tools in the shed that don't really have a good home, so I've managed to find space on the stand for them. I'm making a platform for the scroll saw just now. I wanted a really solid base for it as it generates a good amount of vibration when it's being used. For this reason I decided to drill through the bandsaw frame to make a solid anchor point to build off of. I'm using offcuts from my old deck to frame out the underside of the platform. The offcuts were used in another video, the geodesic dome chair, so if you've not seen that, check it out, I'll put a link above. Once the frame was completed, I again just used some thin plywood to cover the frame and box out the underside of this platform. The next tool that I want to get onto the stand is a 3-inch belt sander. I really like this tool because it's been designed so that it can be mounted with a kit or used as a hand tool. The top of the sander is flat, so it's nice and stable when it's inverted, and it has threaded holes on the side to be used with the mount kit. I'm a bit tight though, so I didn't want to buy it, so I decided to make a mounting bracket myself. Don't want to use an Allen key to tighten up the bolts when I want to fit the sander or remove it. That's not very efficient, and I'm trying to make the shed as lean and efficient as I can. So I made these little wooden handles or top pieces for the bolts so they can be tightened and slackened off by hand. I'm using a bit of 2x4 offcut to connect the base plate to the L bracket. The 2x4 is connected to the plywood base using countersunk screws from the underside and one pocket hole from the top side. The sander is going to be placed in front of the lower door on the bandsaw, so it can't be permanently fixed in position. The sander will be able to be used in its position for most things, but if I had a tall piece that needed sanded, that would collide with the bandsaw fence rail. So I've come up with the idea of having the base plate slide in and out. I can use a router to cut the recesses in the plywood to accept the rails. The first cut went really well, however the deck stop pinged off the router on the second cut. I hadn't noticed until it was all the way through the plywood. So the base plate is a bit shorter than originally planned, but it works exactly the same as intended, and there's no point in cutting a second bit of wood to replace the first one. In addition to the runners you've just seen me fit, I have a couple of M10 bolts securing the base plate to the stand. I cut this bit of metal in half to make 2 bushings for the bolts to run through. Then use the belt sander to clean the cuts up. I can then get the holes drilled into the plywood base plate, first using a pilot bit before finishing off with 15mm Bossner bit. Bit of brute force gets the bushings located into place. I offer up the base plate into its home position to mark the holes before drilling them out. Once the holes are drilled, I can then use these threaded inserts to give me a solid fixing for the M10 bolts to secure to the stand. I can then offer up the base plate to the extended position, mark the holes and repeat the process. I've now moved on to the dust collection manifold. I've mocked it up here and I'm just using some latex gloves to test the suction. There's nothing sealing any of the joints at the moment, and I was pretty impressed with the suction I was getting. It's just a 40mm waste pipe fixings that I'm using for the manifold, combination of T's and 90s. So I'm happy with the manifold, and I've also made a test blast gate which I'm also happy with. It's a really simple design, just the top piece, the bottom piece, the two spacers and the slider in the middle. Bit of wood glue and some pin nails hold it all together, and you got these bashed out pretty quick. So I wasn't too accurate with these because I'm going to tidy them up shortly, but a blast gate's no use without a hole, so pilot drill through the three pieces and then a 40mm hole saw to get the correct size for my pipe. And then just get them tidied up, as I said, with the bandsaw, and then I get to test out the belt sander in its new home. To finish off the blast gates, I need a piece of 40mm pipe on either side, so I can get them cut down on the bandsaw. I can then tidy up the edges and put a small little chamfer on it using the belt sander. This has just helped them pop into place a little bit easier, as it's a nice tight friction fit. The blast gates need a little stopper for when they're into the open position, so these thin bits of wood secured with wood glue and pin nails will do the job perfectly for that. I need something a bit bigger on the opposite side of the blast gates, so I'm using these oak blocks of wood cut down to the width of the blast gates, and I'm again going to be using some threaded inserts. So I just get the centre of the blocks marked up and drill the hole out and get the insert inserted. Nice simple job now, just mount the blocks onto the front of the blast gates. What could go wrong?
Oh no! There's the wrong way round. That's it, back on the right way round. Dumbass.
Now the final piece of the blast gate, the second bit of 40mm pipe. So I've got the manifold offered up into the final position it's going to sit, and then I can use some hot glue to just get it secured down before I remove it from the cabinet and get it properly secured in place with some U-clips. I can get some holes cut into the stand in preparation for running all the pipes and cables through it. If only it was that easy in real life. So the light's at the end of the tunnel now. I can start getting the tools mounted into positions and running the pipe work through the stand. First up is the little 1-inch belt sander and 5-inch disc sander. I've ended up using 3 of these 40mm flexi pipes, but we're just not quite fitting onto the ports on here. But a little bit of heat with a heat gun and hey presto, popped right on. So this is self-amalgamated tape. I use it quite a bit in my day job to give a waterproof protection to electrical connections. If it's waterproof, it is going to be airtight when it's sealed up. You basically work it around itself and it sticks to itself to create a nice solid seal. You'll see here on the manifold I've got 90-degree bends that's sitting on top of the blast gates. But I changed them over. The one in the front there, you can see that angle is a lot shallower. I changed them all over to that one before it was all buttoned up. So I've just been trying to route everything as tidily as possible, keeping everything neat and as short a run as I can for all the dust collection and the electrics. The next job will be to hook up the plug for the power coming into the stand. And the vacuum I've got has got two settings. It's got the first setting, which is just a normal vacuum, and the second setting is an automatic start. So when you turn on a tool on this stand, the vacuum will sense that current inrush to the tool and it will automatically start the vacuum. So that means that I can plug my vacuum hose in, I can plug my power in off the vacuum, and whenever I start any one of the tools, I've got power and I've got vacuum. Only thing I have to remember to do is to open the correct blast gate for the right tool. I'm not going to go into too much detail on these quick connects. I've got another video where I fit the quick connects to a good portion of my hand tools. I'll put a link to that video up above. I've fitted the top blanking plate to the stand here just so I can get the position for this plate, which will be the control panel. I'm using old laminate flooring that I ripped up from the spare bedroom in our house. So I've marked the position of the first two blast gates as they touch the front of that plate. I can get the holes drilled and get this threaded bar into position before marking up the back three blast gates and repeating the process. So I get the threaded bars into place and then push the blast gates into the closed position. I can then mark the position at the front of the threaded bar and get them cut to size. And I'm just going to use some golf balls as the control knobs for the blast gates as well as the pulls for the drawers. Now on to the very last job, is making the drawer boxes for the stand. I just get the track saw set up with a few stops and I can batch out all the sides for the drawer boxes. I use a square clamp to the MFT to assist in assembling the boxes. Unfortunately I lost the footage of the bases and the fronts going on, so you'll just have to have a look at them at the end of the video. Thanks for still being here. If you've watched the build or if you've skipped along, here's the features of this beast. So obviously this is the original stand that came with the bandsaw. It's 60 centimetres or just over 2 foot, or just thereabouts 2 foot, by 43 centimetres or 17 inches. And this is a little bit bigger but not much at all. It's 65 centimetres or 25.5 inches in length by 51.5 centimetres or 20.25 inches. So a little bit bigger. Obviously this is at the widest point, but not much. Obviously the bandsaw is lifted up a little bit. That's 5 inches taller to the base of the bandsaw than it would be here, or is that 13 centimetres there or thereabouts. Obviously that for me is perfect because it was a little bit low for my work height. So now that's perfect height for me. So if you've seen some of the videos on the channel, you'll know that my power tools are powered from this connector and I've got the dust collector here. So this stand is no different. You've got the power and you've got the dust going into the stand. Staying on the same side of the stand, we've got a light, which obviously you can use on the bandsaw, you can use on the 3-inch, you can use it on a scroll saw, and you can even use it on the sander on the other side. Below the light, we've obviously got the switch for the bandsaw, still easy access. You've got another couple of quick connects, and I'll show you the reason for that. If we need to change the blade on the bandsaw, the 3-inch belt is in the way. So that's why we've got these quick connects on here. You can pop them off. There's a couple of screws here. Take them off and that comes away. And we've now got access to the lower wheel. So the 3-inch belt sander is a hand tool, so it can be used the other way around as well. And that's another reason why this is here, so it can be used like any other hand tools in the shed. So another issue of having the belt sander here is if you're wanting to sand something tall, the fence for the bandsaw is in the way. So that's why you can slide this out. It's got 2 positions. You can lock it into position quite easily. You've got easy access all the way around. And then nice and easy again to push it back into its home position, and again just lock it in place. If you saw the build video, you'll know there's another couple of little screws that are made on this plate here, so you can lift the belt sander away. Now on this side of the bandsaw we've got the control panel for the blast gates. So these are all in the closed position. You want to use one tool, you just pull it out nice and easy and pop it back in to close it. They're labelled up here, but I need to make some nice labels obviously for each control knob. Got a blanking plate here, I'll take that off and let you see the manifold. And then we've just got 2 drawers on the lower side of this side. So we've got the manifold down the bottom here, and then we've got the blast gates here. So all the piping's going up and connecting to all the tools. I've just screwed that blanking plate in and the plate for the control panel here as well. I was thinking about magnets or something, but for all the times that I'm going to need in there, it doesn't take that long to take the screws out, and I'm not too worried about it being overly pretty as it's just for the shed. Moving up from the manifold and the blast gates, we've got this tower that the scroll saw sits on top of. You might think it's quite high, but this is a really nice height for me working on little stuff. Nice and close in, you can see everything, so the light's got access to the workpiece. Still got easy access to the controls, open the blast gate. And then behind this panel you've got all the power, so the power tower. There is this small space here which I think we'll be utilising in the future. I was thinking maybe a small grinder or one of the pillar drill holders for a handheld drill. I'll put the measurements on the screen. If you've got any ideas, pop it in the comment below. On to the back side of the bandsaw now. Dust collection all running through, and obviously the 1-inch belt. Not much else to say on this side. So onto the final side of the stand. It's just 3 more drawers. Pretty decent sized drawers. That's big enough for an SDS drill in there. With the spare bits and bobs in there, and another little drawer on the top there. Anyway, if you've liked the stand, give it a like. If you want to see some other cool ideas I've got for the shed, click subscribe, hit that little bell button so that you don't miss them. Thanks for watching and good evening.